The transport ship Meridian's Hope had been drifting for 3 cycles when Eric found them. He'd been running diagnostics in the cargo bay, checking the cryopods that held Earth's most precious export. Hope, in the form of colonists bound for New Terra when he heard it. A sound that didn't belong in the sterile hum of a spaceship, the whimper of something young and afraid. Eric followed the noise to a maintenance shaft, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. What he found made him freeze. 3 creatures huddled together, no larger than house cats, covered in scales that shimmered between silver and gold. They had wings, translucent, delicate things folded against their bodies, and eyes that glowed with an inner light. One of them, the smallest, was injured, a gash across its side leaking something that looked like liquid starlight. What in the hell? Eric breathed. The creatures cowered, and something in their fear touched something fundamental in his human heart. He'd grown up on stories of lost things finding their way home. These were children, he realized. Just children, alone and terrified. Shirley found him an hour later, kneeling by the maintenance shaft with a makeshift nest of thermal blankets and a medical kit spread around him. Eric, the captain's been looking for... She stopped, her eyes widening. Are those Dracovian hatchlings? Eric looked up at his fellow crew member, the ship's xenobiologist, guilt already forming his defense. They're hurt. I couldn't just... Do you have any idea what you've done? Shirley dropped to her knees beside him, but her hands were already reaching for the injured one, her training overriding her shock. Dracovians are a protected species. If anyone finds out we have these, then we don't tell anyone, Eric said simply. Look at them, Shirley. They're starving. The smallest one chirped, a sound like wind chimes in a storm, and looked up at him with those luminous eyes. Eric felt something crack in his chest. Shirley examined the wound with gentle hands. This needs proper treatment, and they need food, specialized nutrients that we don't have on board. Then we figure it out, Eric insisted. Humans have been improvising since we learned to walk. We can do this. She met his eyes, and he saw his own determination reflected there. Finally, she nodded. We're going to need synthesized proteins, calcium supplements, and probably half the ship's energy reserves to keep them warm enough. They worked through the night. Eric learned that Dracovian hatchlings needed to be fed every 4 hours. Their metabolism burned like miniature suns, requiring enormous amounts of energy. Shirley rigged the synthesizer to produce a nutrient paste that approximated their natural diet. It smelled like ozone and tasted, Eric had checked, out of paranoid caution, like battery acid mixed with cinnamon. The hatchlings loved it. Every night, after his shift ended, Eric would slip away to the maintenance shaft. He'd feed them, check their wounds, and talk to them about Earth, about blue skies and oceans, about the mountains he'd climbed as a boy, about humanity's long journey to the stars. Your mom's probably looking for you, he'd whisper, stroking the smallest one's scales. They'd named her Nova, though they never spoke the names aloud to anyone else. Don't worry. You're safe here. We'll figure this out. The hatchlings grew stronger. Nova's wound healed to a silver scar. They began to chirp and play, their bioluminescence filling the maintenance shaft with dancing light. Eric found himself looking forward to those quiet hours, to the weight of their trust. Shirley discovered something in her research that made her go pale. Eric, she said one evening, pulling him aside with trembling hands. I know what they are. Who they are, she showed him her data pad. The markings on the hatchling's scales weren't random. They were genealogical markers. Royal genealogical markers. The Star Empress, Shirley whispered. These are her children. Do you understand? The Dracovian Star Empress, ruler of the Celestial Dominion. She's been tearing apart this sector of space looking for them. 3 ships have been vaporized just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Eric felt the blood drain from his face. The Star Empress was legend, a being of terrible power who had united 1,000 worlds under her rule. She could snuff out stars, they said. Reshape reality with a thought. We have to give them back, Shirley said. I know, Eric replied, but that night, when he fed them, when little Nova curled up in his lap and purred like distant thunder, he couldn't help but wonder if they'd survive long enough to make the exchange. The Star Empress found them first. The Meridian's Hope shuddered as something vast and impossible appeared alongside them. Not a ship, something alive, something that existed partially in dimensions Eric's human mind couldn't quite process. Reality bent around it like light around a black hole. The temperature dropped. Frost formed on the walls. And then she was there in the corridor outside the maintenance shaft. Too large for the space, too bright to look at directly. Eric stepped forward, placing himself between the Empress and the shaft where Shirley was holding the hatchlings. "They're safe," he managed to say, his voice remarkably steady given that he was fairly certain he was about to die. "They're fed. They're warm. The injured one, Nova, she's healing well." The Empress regarded him with eyes like dying galaxies. When she spoke, her voice resonated in his bones. "You fed them?" "Every night," Eric confirmed. "Every 4 hours, actually. Their metabolism is incredible. We had to recalibrate the synthesizer 17 times to get the nutrient balance right. But Shirley, she's brilliant. She figured it out. They've gained weight. They're strong. They're going to be fine." The Empress moved closer, and Eric's human instinct screamed at him to run. He held his ground. "A human," the Empress said, something like wonder in her terrible voice. "When my children were lost, stolen by raiders who sought to ransom them, I thought them dead. I have burned worlds searching. And you fed them?" "They were hungry," Eric said simply. "What else could I do?" Shirley emerged from the maintenance shaft, carrying all 3 hatchlings. They chirped excitedly when they saw their mother, their scales flashing with joy. The reunion was blinding. Later, much later, after the Empress had reclaimed her children, after she'd offered Eric and Shirley rewards they couldn't begin to comprehend. Eric asked for better synthesizers for all human ships. Shirley requested a xenobiological exchange program. After the Meridian's Hope had been gifted propulsion technology that would change human space travel forever, Eric sat in the observation deck and watched the stars. Shirley joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "The captain says we're heroes," she said. "Humanity's ambassadors to the Celestial Dominion. They're writing about us on Earth," Eric smiled tiredly. "We just fed some kids." "You fed some kids," Shirley corrected. "You found them. You cared. Isn't that what we do?" Eric asked. "Isn't that what makes us human? We see something helpless, something that needs us, and we can't walk away. Even when it's dangerous. Even when it's impossible. We stay, we help. We feed the hungry, heal the wounded, protect the weak." Shirley raised her coffee cup in salute. "Humanity, fuck yeah." Eric laughed and clinked his cup against hers. Outside the viewport, a new star blazed into existence. A gift from the Star Empress, she'd said. A beacon to guide humanity's expansion to the stars. They'd fed some dragon children. And in doing so, they'd changed the galaxy forever. Because that's what humans did.